we are setting you up with the perfect exercise routine, one that is quick, sustainable, so that you actually look like you work out. You can tighten up before summer 2025. Hello, welcome back to another episode. If you're new here, hello, my name is Laura. I have a Bachelor of Exercise Physiology and I'm an accredited sports nutritionist. And over here, we like to blend science with some really tangible, practical tips to help you on your journey. So it's not just another influencer telling you what to do, but actually backed by science. I want you feeling confident in the gym, empowered, and knowing exactly what you need to do. So this episode is going to break down exactly everything that you need to know so that you can start seeing results in your body. Let me guess, right now you're walking into the gym just really unsure on what to do. Maybe it's a little bit of abs, a little bit of cardio, a little bit of weights, maybe a little bit of HIIT. Maybe you use some machines that you feel familiar with. You want to use the weight section, but you don't feel confident or comfortable unless you have someone with you. It feels a little bit intimidating. You don't want to look like you don't know what you're doing. So you just keep walking past it. Maybe you're scrolling on social media and saving workouts that look doable. You save another glute burner workout or a tight tummy circuit. Deep down, you know that this is not giving you the results that you want. So then you just default to the treadmill, hoping burning calories is going to do the trick. But week after week, you feel frustrated because you're putting in this effort, you're showing up, but the results are missing. So you guys, here's the truth that no one is talking about. Everyone is talking about the importance of consistency of working out. Of course, absolutely. However, if you want to see real results in your body composition, you want to be toned and tight, then random workouts are going to lead to random results. You're not failing because you're not trying hard enough. You're failing because you're lacking structure to your workout routine. And without this structure, your training cannot build momentum. You cannot continue to progress and therefore improve in every element in terms of strength, in terms of body composition, in terms of cardiovascular fitness. You're doing what I call right now is busy workouts. Things that feel like they should work, but they're not moving the needle towards real fat loss or muscle definition. So let's talk about exactly what you need to do so that you can start seeing results in the gym. So first of all, we have to talk about toning, right? What is toning? All it is building muscle and dropping body fat so that you can see the muscle. So therefore, if your exercise routine is not set up optimally to build muscle, then you're never going to get that fit, toned, lean look. This is why so many people get stuck, because they lose weight, and because they're not implementing what I'm telling you today, they don't get that toned look because their exercise routine is not set up properly. So of course, what do we have to do? We have to set up an exercise routine to build muscle. And how the hell are we going to do that? So step number 1 is you are going to create structure. You're going to start following an exercise program, because like I said, the difference between seeing results is random workouts versus training with intention. So when building out an exercise program, we get to break it up into 4 different elements: frequency, intensity, time, and type of training. So first of all, we're going to talk about the frequency. Like, how often do I have to train? How many days a week? What do I have to do with this exercise program? Okay, so with your frequency of training, there is a lot of conflicting perspectives in the literature and the research. And for someone who is very new to training, say you're in the first 3 years of following an actual exercise program in the gym, more volume is not necessarily better. And I see so many women going in and just smashing themselves with like so many exercises and then just walking out fatigued, they're under recovered, and they just keep plateauing. And this is why how many sets per muscle group you do is super, super important. Because the best amount of sets to do is the amount that you can actually recover from. Because if you are not recovering, then you're not going to continue to progress. So what does this look like? For most women in the early stages of lifting, you're looking at anywhere between 10 to 20 sets per muscle group. So let's use an example of the glutes. So to hit the glutes 10 to 20 times, you could break that up into 3 sets of hip thrusts, 3 sets of Romanian deadlifts, 3 sets of step ups. Then to hit that many sets, you can easily just spread that across 3 to 4 days a week. There is new literature that has dropped that is you can get the same maximum gain potential with just 4 sets per muscle group, as long as you're training that close to failure. And yes, we're going to talk about that in a moment. So here on the screen is a screenshot of a full body workout that you can easily implement that is ticking off some of these boxes. Okay, sweet. Now we know the frequency. We're training 3 to 4 times a week. We're hitting each muscle group 10 to 20 sets. Now we need to talk about intensity. Now this one is super, super important. So if you're new to the gym and you've been only lifting following a program, like, you're in your first year, your number one priority needs to be about learning the technique and fine tuning your form with your exercises, and also learning how to brace your core through movements. You're never ever going to be able to really push yourself really close to failure if you've got shitty form on the exercise. So you absolutely need to nail this first. And what you have to understand is that progressing your form is also a form of progression, right? Improving your range of motion, improving your mind-muscle connection, improving your brace is also a form of progressive overload, which I'm going to touch on in a minute. So it's really important that you're really focused on that, because we get these messages as like, yeah, you got to push yourself to failure, you got to train close to failure, which is super, super important, don't get me wrong. However, if you can't maintain your form with the exercise, then you can't push close to failure because you can't even do it. So coordination, proprioception, and getting those exercises right needs to be top tier number one, because once you tick that off, you'll find yourself being able to push yourself harder in your sets, because the better your form, the more that you can engage the right muscles, and then you can really start pushing them close to failure. And that's what you then need to start focusing on. You need to be really focusing on your mind-muscle connection. So let's talk about your hip thrust for a second. So in your hip thrust is when you're coming up, you really want to be making sure that you're feeling your glutes at the top and then coming back down. If you're doing a bench press, really making sure you're feeling your chest through the movement. And then once you can hold that form, you can hold a really good brace, is when you then want to be pushing yourself to those extremes. Because at the end of the day, it's like lifting heavy is really hard, and it's very taxing on the body. And it's also, you've got to be safe while doing it. And this is not to scare you, absolutely not. This is just for you guys to be aware of how important it is to be making sure that you've got good form and really working on that before you really start pushing yourself with those lifts. And like, honestly, this is where I see so many women get it wrong, and you are not going to make this mistake, is they're going online and they're saving influencers workouts, and these influencers have been training for like 3 years plus. So the exercises that they're doing are a little bit too advanced for where you're currently at. So then you go and try what they're doing and you can't feel it, you can't do it right. So that's why it's really, really important to be making sure that you are training in alignment with the level that you're at. There is no shame of being a beginner. We're all a beginner at one point, and that's the beautiful thing about it. So therefore, it's really just important that when you are setting yourself up, it's like, make sure, like, before you go back squat, you need to be able to goblet squat. Before you go and do walking lunges, you need to do lunges on the spot. Before you go do a Bulgarian lunge, you need to do reverse lunges, things like that. To summarize, all of that is making sure you are learning your form, nailing that, and then focusing on pushing your muscles close to failure. And what does close to failure actually mean? So let's use a bicep curl, for example. So we're smashing out bicep curls. Close to failure, what that looks like is the rep will be half the speed of your first rep, right? Like, you're really going to be slowing down because you're like, holy shit, like, this is so hard. You're going to be like even shaking a little bit, and it's just going to be like you are really pushing yourself to some extremes, right? And you guys know that this takes practice as well. This is pushing yourself to these extremes is, it's going to require practice and more practice and more practice. Like, the amount that I can push myself in the gym now is like 10 times harder than when I first started out because I've been doing it for a long time. So if you're starting out, you're just getting into this, just give yourself grace and know that it's going to come, and your lifting journey is going to be one that's going to continue to improve again and again and again and again. Because think about it like this, like, if you're anything like me, you're going to be doing this for the rest of your life. Sweet. So now we know how many sets we need to do. Now we know how intense it needs to be. Now we're going to talk about one of the most important fundamental training principles is progressive overload. Because you guys, back to that conversation about consistency, like, yes, it's one thing to be consistent. We need that, of course, but then it's not just the quality of the exercise, it's the quality of our exercise that's important if we want to see a result. Because it's not just what we do, it's how we do it. Okay, so what I mean by that is when you want to grow muscle, progressive overload is everything, right? Literally, I remember the first time I actually started progressively overloading properly, and I was like, just like, oh my God, I can actually see my body composition changing. And why this is important is because it's simply you get stronger, your body adapts. So therefore you need a new stimulus on the body so that it keeps improving. It's just like, you know, being in your career. If you're not having a new stimulus and you're not like pushing yourself to be in new environments and do things to push yourself outside of your comfort zone, then you're just going to continue to plateau and just stay exactly where you are. Your body is exactly the same. So that's why this training principle is super important. So the best way to apply progressive overload is making sure when you're following a gym program, you have somewhere to write down what you're lifting every single week. This is an example. This is what I use and what I use with my clients as well here on the screen. It has the exercise and then it has the sets and the reps. It also has on the side of what you lifted the week before, so that you know when you open your program, you can see, sweet, I did the back squats at 30 kilos last week. I know that I have to beat that this week. So having that as a reminder there, and then knowing exactly what you have to do is perfect. So making sure you're writing down your exercises, how many sets, how many reps, what weight you used. So therefore the week later, you can improve on that. Super, super important. Then with progressive overload, like your progression does not have to be big, okay? 1 repetition, 1.25 kilos. That's what we're aiming for. The small 1%ers literally add up over time. I remember like doing my first chin up and then progressing that with weight. And like I was progressing with like 1.25 kilos like every single week. And all of a sudden I went for a PB to do chin ups and I could do 10. Right? But, you know, I didn't see that week to week because I was like only improving by like the slightest little bit with adding a little bit of weight. And then all of a sudden I was like, whoa, okay, I can do that. Don't be scared to use the little plates and that extra rep, because trust me when I say they absolutely add up over time. Sweet. So now we've got the frequency, how much you need to train. You have your intensity, we have progressive overload. Now we're going to talk about the type of exercise. So of course, we've been talking about lifting weights, resistance training, but I just wanted to talk about a little bit about cardio and Pilates, because truly I believe Pilates and cardio can be such a enhancement to a really well-rounded exercise routine. It's just really important that you're adding in these elements into your routine for the right purpose, right? Cardio is an amazing tool to improve cardiovascular health. Cardio should never be added to an exercise routine for the pure sake of burning calories. Your cardio is there to help you improve your health, which we love to see. So really, if that is the goal, and you know, this is where you have to get specific, right? Like if you want to run a marathon, if you want to become a sprinter, if you want to come, you know, insert your thing, it's important that your prescription for that is specific for what you want to achieve. But in this case, as we're talking about body composition, it is really nice to add in a little bit of cardio to help you with your overall cardiovascular fitness, which essentially will then also help you improve your lifting. So what this looks like is just 1 to 2 20-minute HIIT sessions a week. And when I talk about high intensity interval training, what I'm talking about is like proper high intensity interval training. So not like doing burpees or box jumps or squat jumps, things like that. I'm talking about doing it on a cardio machine. Maybe that is the bike, whether that is the treadmill, and actually monitoring your heart rate and getting that up and pulling that down, and actually doing like 40 seconds on, 20 seconds off, 40 seconds on, 20 seconds off for 4 minutes. And you do that like 2 to 3 times, because essentially we don't want the cardio aspect to be inhibiting our recovery from our lifting. So that's super, super important. So that's why I'm not about burpees or shit like that, because that's just going to impact your ability to recover from your lifts. And we know that that is not a good thing. Then of course, talk about Pilates as well. I think that also can be incorporated into a really well-rounded exercise routine. And again, just making sure that you're super crystal clear on your expectations of what you're getting out of it. So Pilates Please don't make the mistake of thinking that it's going to tone up your body, because in order to tone, we know you got to build muscle and you've got to apply these principles, and Pilates classes just simply don't do that, right? Pilates is really, really good for stability, for mobility, for muscular endurance, absolutely, which again will help you in the gym. So doing that once a week is like prime, really. Now, the next thing that we absolutely need to touch on and you need to consider with your exercise routine is your recovery, right? Do not think that more is better, right? It is absolutely not. Like it doesn't matter how much exercise you do. If you're coming in, you're tired, you're exhausted, your muscles are sore, and you can't train at the intensities that you need to, you're not going to see the results that you want. Remember, intensity and recovery, that pair together is key. Okay, so we want to be having like 1 to 2 rest days per week so that we actually give our body time to recover. So then every time we go into the gym, we're feeling fresh, we're feeling motivated, we're feeling excited to lift, to push hard, and then start that process all over again of pushing hard to then recover. And then the last thing I of course need to touch on is sustainability and specificity, right? Because when it comes to exercise, it is so dependent on what your goal is. And if you have a specific goal, today we've been talking about body composition, but like I've already said, like you want to run 10Ks, you want to deadlift 100 kilos, right? Like there's so many specific goals that you can achieve through an exercise routine. So it's just making sure that it's really, really important that you get clear on what you want to achieve. And this is where it goes, you can run into some issues because you just keep copying other people. Like, but if they don't have the same goal as you, then you're not going to achieve what you want. So that's why it's really important, is just making sure that you are so crystal clear on what you want to achieve, and then making sure it's specific to that. Then we have to pair that with, of course, sustainability, right? Like if you're working full time and, you have long hours, right? It's probably not realistic that you're going to be able to hit 4 gym sessions, do a Pilates class and cardio. Like, let's be real. You're not probably going to be consistent with that. And this is what you guys have to understand, is like, that's okay. You do not have to do that, because there is truth behind the best type of exercise routine is one that actually suits you and your lifestyle, but just then making sure that you're ticking the specific boxes that you need in order to achieve your goals. And you can easily do that with training 3 days a week. Absolutely. You can easily do that training 4 days a week. You can easily do that doing 5 days a week. But so therefore, it's just making sure that it's realistic and sustainable for you. So don't think that you need to do these crazy 5, 6, 7 day exercise routines, because bluntly, it's just not true. Like for a long time, I was lifting for 3 days a week and doing 1 Pilates class and just doing 10,000 steps, and that was it. Now I've ramped up my training a little bit, just simply because I'm enjoying it. I've added in a lot more cardio just for fun, because my goals have changed around that. So just being radically self-honest, I think number one, of just being like, what's actually realistic and sustainable for me, and then sticking to that, because there's nothing worse than over-committing to something that is just going to burn you out and stress you out, because at the end of the day, your exercise routine is there to make you feel fucking good. It's not there to burn you down to the ground and make you feel like absolute shit and feel guilty if you can't make your sessions. So you guys, that is how you're going to set up your exercise routine for success, how you're going to tighten and tone your body. You're going to build muscle by summer 2025. If you want help with this, then I've got links down below. You can come and join us in the 3-week body reset, the place where you're going to get personalized advice. I'm going to help you set up the perfect routine, exercise and nutrition, so that you can see the results that you want, most importantly, in a sustainable way. So you guys, thank you for being here. I appreciate you more than you know, and I will see you guys next week. Bye.